It's 3 o'clock. I'm getting started. Doing for a workshop on the amendment number 1 of the Wakulla County Restore Act. Bree, you want to get us started?
Okay. Again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here for another workshop related to the BP oil spill. And the purpose of this workshop is to give you an update on where we are with the initial MyApp, which the board approved last year and the Treasury accepted, and to talk about we have an opportunity to amend that MyApp and what the process is for amending it. And I'll just give a little bit of a background for citizens and just a little refresher. The Restore Act is based on the U.S. Justice lawsuit and settlement with BP and other liable parties pursuant to the Clean Water Act and the Restore Act of 2012. The Restore Act identifies the recipients and percentages of funds to be allocated to recipients, aka Wakulla County and the other counties, from the settlement. It provides for the purpose and criteria for the expenditure of such funds and directs the U.S. Treasury to oversee the Restore Act program and establish rules in the Code of Federal Regulations that govern the process of recipients to access, spend, and report on such funds. And these workshops are part of that process. Wakulla County is one of the 23 counties in Florida who received funds. Gulf Coast counties, that is, and Florida is one of the 5 states that received funds because of the Deep Horizon. The Wakulla County Board of County Commissioners for Wakulla County to receive funds is the legal authority, so you approve everything and we take it from there. The MyApp, the multi-year implementation plan, is basically a strategic plan that lets the Treasury and the public know how we're going to spend our funds. And it is very, I didn't include that slide, I pulled them from the last workshop. I see everybody looking. So anyway, so it is a strategic plan that is a little bit more detailed. It's more of an operational plan of how we're going to spend the funds. We have to include a lot of detailed documentation. It's almost like a pre-application. The Treasury at one time had told us that we could only have a MyApp for the amount of funds that we had available. On a conference call last week, we understand that they may be lightening up on that a little bit so that they would allow us to do like maybe a 5-year plan in anticipation of the funds being deposited. Because as you know, the funds will get paid out over a 15-year period. So we have to sequence and phase all of our projects to work in with that cash flow. And I've got some info on that and how our projects fit in. Part of the MyApp is that we have to show how our project meets one of the criteria that's in the Restore Act, which is, you know, infrastructure, environment, or tourism. And we have to be very specific. We also have to do a 45-day public comment period to make sure that the public has had an opportunity to see the MyApp, any amendments to it, and any of the applications. So this is part of that pre-45-day public comment period, and to make sure that the board is okay with the direction staff is going. And when I get into the actual presentation, I'll give some more detail on how much cash we have and how our projects have impacted the cash and how we have to manage that cash flow. But 13.7 million is what we'll get over the next, it's like 12 years now because we've already had like 3 deposits. So annually we get about $800,000 in October, and it's kind of like a little savings account, and we like store up our money, and then when we have enough saved up, we can do a project. It requires, to access those funds, it requires the MyApp to be approved by the board.
What bank are they in? What bank are the
Treasury.
They're the Treasury.
The Treasury Bank.
We don't actually get a check.
It's stored in the Treasury Bank account, and then we access it through an approved MyApp and through an approved grant agreement, and then we expend the funds, and then we can ask for reimbursement based on allowable, allocable, and reasonable expenditures with appropriate documentation. So we spend a lot of time auditing, pre-auditing to make sure that we don't get any adverse audit comments.
So you said we've taken three, well, not taken, but I guess set aside 3 years worth of the $800,000?
We've got some money already obligated against that, and I'll go over that in just a few minutes. I've got another slide that in the actual presentation. I just kind of wanted to bring everybody up to speed.
Okay.
But none's been spent so far.
We a little bit because of the planning assistance grant.
Okay.
We've spent about $50,000, and we've been reimbursed for half of that, and we're getting ready to seek another payment, so that and that is all for my time, and that's because in 2017 the board canceled a $300,000 consulting contract, and staff delivered that product to you for less than $50,000.
Okay, make sure I understand. Maybe I'm getting ahead of the
It's okay.
card here, but so the money set aside, if you will, it's not in our bank account, but it's somewhere in the
In the
treasury
treasury,
account.
yes, sir.
It's earmarked for Wakulla. Okay, can they arbitrarily take that money and do something else with it, or is it
Not today, they can't. They would have to change the Restore Act of 2012. Congress
Okay.
actually would have to do that.
So that's earmarked money for Wakulla that we're building up to do a project?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I understand.
And it's an opportunity because it does infuse additional funds into the county, funds that we wouldn't have. So we've been able to, leverage and maximize those dollars, and get further ahead with a lot of things that we wouldn't be able to. But it is a very cumbersome process. It requires cash management at every phase and sequencing of projects over the next 15 years. And ultimately not knowing what the Treasury will approve. We have a pretty good handle, but sometimes they will pop up and give us a reason why a certain project is not allowable, and I've got an example of that in here. And we cannot use Restore Act funds, or any federal funds for that matter, to repay bonds or loans. I think you guys hammered that one out several times, didn't you?
You can't borrow against those future funds, correct?
Right.
Is that right?
And so, and that's why I just kind of wanted to bring everybody up to speed, a little bit of background on the Restore Act. And so now I will get into the actual presentation. So the initial MyApp, like I mentioned earlier, staff developed it. We started in May of 2017, and we wrapped it up in August of 2018. The Treasury accepted the plan in September. That constituted 3 workshops around with the board. We did, one to kick it off, one to go over, material for ranking projects and evaluating them and prioritizing. And then we did a final workshop for the projects that would be included in the initial MyApp. We did 3 public meetings around the county, and we did that to make sure that we had good public input, that citizens understood the process, they had an opportunity to speak, ask questions, and even to help rank projects. And so we did a meeting at St. Mark's, Shell Point, and Panacea.
A lot of people from Panacea went, right?
We had a lot of people. Shell Point had a pretty good turnout as well. And
The citizens ranking, it seems like Panacea is slightly weighted.
yes, and you'll see that when we show you the side by side. But they were actually very good meetings, and we got a lot of feedback, and for the most part we got a lot of the citizens supported projects that went for water quality improvements and that also benefited the economy. So there were very good meetings. We did development of project selection criteria that we went over in one of the workshops. I believe that was October-ish. We did press releases. We had a public comment period from September 19th through October 6th, 2017. So we did that before we did the 45-day public comment, just to make sure that everybody had a chance to be involved. We did a community needs assessment, and that needs assessment took documents from the Water Management District for our watersheds. It took the Chamber's Economic Development Strategy, the TDC's goals. We reached out to the waterfronts to get input from them on their material. There were probably 15 or 20 documents, and I have a list of them that's attached to the community needs assessment in the board package. And through all of those documents that we went through and all the citizen input, there was really kind of like 3 emerging goals or themes that you could come up with. You couldn't put your finger on like any one project or any one place in the county, but collectively everything led to these 3 vital drivers to Wakulla County. And the first one was projects that expand and improve infrastructure to protect water quality and facilitate economic development. So that could be anything from septic to sewer, it could be roads, transportation improvements, because all of those help to improve water quality as well as to initiate, support economic development. Provide and preserve coastal access and improve existing coastal access and infrastructure. So that was any of our boat ramps, new boat ramps, improvements, or land acquisition for more access. Restore and improve marine habitat due to its importance to tourism, recreational and commercial fishing, diving, and oyster harvesting. And that includes both oyster and artificial reefs. So those 3 drivers or goals emerged in every single meeting we had and all the documents we reviewed. I'm getting better with the clicker.
Good. You know, Heather's or David's assistant.
No, I'm used to actually walking around with a mic when I have to do presentations. And so we also looked at the Gulf Consortium projects, which are these projects. And on the left, you'll see where the county ranked the projects, and on the right is where, when we went to the public meetings and the public input, we took all the scores and we averaged them to get a ranking. And so this is how they came out. And this was the other way. We couldn't draw any direct conclusion about, what was more important, but it still pointed to those 3 basic goals: water quality, economic development, etc.
Top 4 were in Panacea on the citizen side.
So, So then, another thing that the board did at one of the board meetings, I believe it was the October board meeting, when we were talking about the criteria and before we went out and did all the public meetings, this was the August board meeting, the board wanted to add additional criteria to the projects. And so this is the additional criteria that we went with the initial, and that I'm recommending that we stick with for the amendment to the MyApp. And that is stay with the Restore Act criteria, infrastructure projects benefiting the economy. It's included in the community needs assessment, contributes activities that are focused on water quality. In other words, they reduce non-point pollution. Projects that cover an initial 3 to 5 year period for sequencing and phasing purposes. Projects partially funded from other state or federal grants. Projects where we can leverage other funds or match them. They're necessary to continue current septic to sewer projects and sewer expansions. Essential to water quality and marine life habitat within county waters, and county resources can support and maintain projects. Because it's another element that we have to consider with every project is not only, we get these funds to build it, but we don't get funds to take care of it. So we have to look and make sure that when Brandy puts the budget together, that we can support all of these new projects, and that the maintenance and the ongoing projection of funds that we might collect due to a new boat ramp or connection fees are going to be enough to support us being able to take care of it. We just can't build it and then let it go.
Sounds like most of the criteria are kind of gently guiding the money towards sewer,
And that's what
septic to sewer.
if,
I think that was the idea.
I think it's guiding it there, don't you, Chuck?
but that can be changed, and that's why the
Right.
purpose of the workshop is to make sure that,
Well, I think that's what we all decided.
and like I say, but the thing is each time we do an amendment, we have to make sure we revisit this and that we're still moving in that general direction. Because ultimately, the MyApp will come before the board for approval in probably 2 to 3 board meetings from now. Okay, so are there any more questions on the initial MyApp? Well, here's a list. Approval of the MyApp included a November 2017 workshop where we presented the proposed projects and input from the community meetings. We did a press release and emails announcing the board's approval of the proposed MyApp in the 45-day public comment period. We posted the proposed MyApp on our website. We sought citizen input. We only received one comment, but it was a positive comment that felt that our approach was, and it was from Mr. Jim Parham, that he felt the approach was a positive and the right approach. Since we didn't receive any comments during the 45-day period that required us to rethink the projects or any of the wording, we did not have to change the MyApp. So the board approved it on August 6th. I submitted it to Treasury the very next day. They accepted it on September 26, 2018. And then in January, I was able to submit the first application, and that was after, I had to do the draft application, get board approval, work with Treasury, and it was submitted, and we're anticipating an award date of May 1, and that would be for the Otter Creek wastewater treatment plant retrofit of Train 1 to bring it up to AWT standards. So we only had one set of questions so far, and those were easy to work with.
But Train 1 is the old wastewater plant, basically.
Mhm.
One that was built, Mike, 500,000 gallons, I think.
And so the plan is to take, as soon as Train 2, which is the one we were paid for with the USDA grant.
The new plant.
We're right, and it would be, everybody that's on Train 1, the old one, will be moved to Train 2. And then, so Train 1 will be taken out of service while it's being retrofitted. And then that will allow us to have both trains up to AWT
These
standards.
aren't real trains, Joe.
Plants. They go choo-choo.
All right, Rich. Question I have is, currently the Train 2 can handle 6.6 million gallons a day,
MGDs.
and that's the capacity. What are they processing right now?
That's a good question, and I don't have an answer to how much they're actually processing.
You mean at the 600, what are they actually flowing?
Mhm.
I think it's 5, a little, it's pretty close.
Pretty close to maxing out.
And then the new plant, I think, is, what, 750? I remember, I don't want to swear that, David's not here.
I thought both were going to be the same capacity.
I think they're both the same capacity.
Well, so that means the new plant must be 6, whatever, 0.6 MGD.
0.6.
It's
The new old plant's 0.6, and when they split,
we'll have a
they
total of
0.2.
12.
So until this is finished, till this first project is finished, we'll only have capacity from 0.6.
I don't think it's going to take long to retrofit the plant.
According
though.
to the engineers, it shouldn't take more than 12 months max, and that's from the date the construction award is, we get the grant, and they anticipate if we get the grant in May 1, then we'll go straight into procurement to get the construction, the general contractor, and they project it from September to about March they should be done with the retrofit.
The bringing Wakulla Gardens and Magnolia Gardens is going to soak up a lot of that new capacity, by the
Mhm.
way.
And what's the average usage per household right now?
If You could run the actual numbers, I mean, by design, it's 300 gallons per day, but it's really closer to like 150 or so, 140. If you actually take, here's how many customers, here's how, because I did it back when
You did this before, so it was,
about 140.
I will tell you that based on what the BDI, Baskerville Donovan engineers, and what we're hearing from Preble Rish Dewberry, who's doing the septic to sewer, that we're going to need both trains to connect all the homes that we have, that we're currently working on in Wakulla Gardens. So the way the construction is going in Wakulla Gardens, and this, we should come out, it's being timed so that they happen about the same time.
We still need to be planning for sewer expansion, and the key thing to that is spray field. Gotta get spray field. I know we're straying a little off the track here, but
And that's,
well, when's the system gonna be taken over to the golf course?
1.2, my understanding is, you're gonna be right back to capacity, and you're gonna have to be thinking about train 3 or an
That's-
expansion.
spray field is the
Right
key
away.
thing.
right, and that's what, and just FYI, that's what David said to me, start planning for train 3. So, that's where we are with the actual Otter Creek wastewater treatment plant. We have one new plant, and we need to retrofit the old one. And we've also explained to the Treasury that we want to sole source the Aeromod system, because Aeromod is what we use for the new plant, and we want to make sure that all of our plants are using the same equipment and the same technology, so that helps with staff training. If there's a problem, you're not trying to keep up with 4 or 5 different systems. We've explained that to them so far, they agree. So we will be able to sole source that, which will make it a lot quicker than having to look for comparable equipment.
If it wasn't for the AWT requirement, we wouldn't need to retrofit anything. And I thought David said they were gonna look at blending the effluents, try to see if we can get the BOD down low enough, but I guess that's not gonna work.
Well, hopefully, I mean, we're also, and don't forget, we've got the $500,000 from DEP where we're doing this study for feasibility study, and that will help give us a little bit more information. And then we have additional funds on the Gulf Consortium side for feasibility studies and a master plan just for Otter Creek. So the other application I'm working on is for the Gulf Consortium funds for a master plan of the Otter Creek wastewater treatment plan. And that's where we're going to be able to get into that planning based on how many homes we bring on, within the next 2, 3, 5 years, what are our capacity needs. So we have a lot of moving parts, and what we're doing is we're focusing on the things that are priority, that we know if we don't get done, we're just going to stop in the water, and that's...
DEP makes us do a capacity analysis report anyway, which is almost exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your flow, and here's how much it's gonna go up.
So whatever the...
When's the feasibility study gonna be finished?
It is advertised, and it should be finished in about the end of next year, which is about the time we get another deposit in our treasury.
Not for the, I was talking about for these, that's the one you're getting from the DEP money? Or
Mhm.
this is for the...
Well, we have money, $500,000 from DEP for feasibility study.
Right. When's
And
that
we-
one coming in?
And we have, that is out to bid now. And so we're hoping to have a contractor on board within the next 2 months, and then they'll start the feasibility study, and we hope that it's all wrapped up and completed by mid next year or the end of next year at the latest. But we also have money on the Gulf Consortium side that if we need it for additional feasibility money or for a master plan just of the Otter Creek wastewater treatment plan, then we have that there too. But right now, we have critical needs that if we don't address those now, then a plan's really not going to do us. We've got a plan going on that we're working on. At the same time, we're trying to fix those critical needs so that hopefully in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll be at a place where the critical needs have been addressed, and then we'll be able to look at all of our future needs with those management decision tools that you need.
We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies for that sewer, right, Mike?
Probably way more than that. I mean,
But unfortunately, anytime you deal with the government, I've come to learn this over the last 8 years, you gotta have a study to get a grant.
Mhm.
It's just the way it is.
yeah.
And so that's what we're doing. We're kind of like, we're over here working on this side with the money that we have, trying to deal with those critical issues, which is the new plant, getting it up and running, which I understand it is now. Now we have to get the existing plant retrofitted for several reasons. We need the capacity, and number two, DEP is going to shut it down forever if we don't get it retrofitted. So that's where we are today with the,
We're under consent order, right?
so that leads us rolling right into why we need to amend the MIAP. Okay, so when we did the initial MIAP, we thought we were going to be able to do about 3 projects in it, because we thought we could do a 5-year MIAP and we could spend the money down as we accrued it. Well, Treasury came back and said, no, you can't do that. Their ruling at that time was you can only do 1 project or however many projects you have, but you can't exceed the amount of money that you have on deposit at the Treasury. I said, okay, so that's why we went with the 1 project, which was the Otter Creek retrofit. Well, we then found out that they don't like connection fees, and they told us that wasn't allowable because a lot of times those fees go to pay down debt service or the loan. So those are just an allowable cost. And I've asked them for that in writing so that they can give me the specific sites. We had thought about putting the lift station number 76 as well, and that's the lift station on US 98, and that's where all of
Gary Moore
Wakulla,
Station.
yes sir, and that's where all of Wakulla Station wastewater is going to go. It's to that lift station, and that's where it's going to be held and then transferred to Otter Creek or
And
Medart.
All of Shell Point goes there too.
Yes, and so what's happened is it's almost at capacity. And we thought the Water Management District was going to fund that project last year, and then we found out that they decided not to because they wanted to do the feasibility study. But that didn't take away the need for Lift Station 76 to be retrofitted to increase capacity to hold the effluent that's going to be coming off of Wakulla Gardens. And according to the engineers, if we don't retrofit it, that wastewater has no place to go. We can't connect those homes if we don't retrofit Lift Station
What about the
76.
force main from there to plant? It's not very
That's
big either.
Medart, right? And
But
that's all-
actually now it goes from 76, it goes from Jerry's place straight to Otter Creek, 'cause we bypassed the one at Gary Brown's.
Okay. Well, I know that we retrofitted Medart, so it was expanded because it had the same issue. It wasn't big enough to handle.
We
Got
increased
rid of
it.
Menard.
Yeah, but we increased the size of the line down 98 from
It was a 12.
76. Right. We upgraded it. It's been very recently. Size of the line.
I don't know where about from Wildwood though, I don't know what size
That
the
was
one.
upsized too.
What about one from high school to Wildwood? That was upsized also? Because they were gonna put a effluent reuse line there.
Supposed to have went to the
So
golf
when
course.
they did the Talcum lift station, the Jerry Moore station, they upgraded the force main
Right.
to a 12-inch, I hope.
Yeah.
That's what we
Well,
were
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because
I
it was
understand.
6-inch,
Right.
and if you don't go to
6.
the 12-inch, it's just not going. It's going to bust just like it did at Medart that day. You're going to get so much
A
pressure.
little bit you'll
built up.
handle a lot.
Can you back up a minute? You said something about they being whoever.
Dewberry, Preble Ridge.
No,
They
talked
do.
about the connection fees. They didn't, who,
Treasury.
Treasury doesn't like, all right, so help me understand that, can we not charge connection fees?
We do, but the Treasury will not reimburse us. Like if we
This is for
wanted to do,
Wakulla Gardens you're talking about.
if we wanted to do it like we've been doing it, there's no cost to the consumer, to the.
Okay, they don't like that.
They won't pay our share, we waive it and usually we soak it up.
Right,
Now
right.
we're hooking on thousands of people, so we ask them to pay the connection fee that we.
They don't do that.
No.
So are we still gonna offer it hook on free?
Yeah.
And we're gonna suck it up?
Yeah,
My understanding is that.
just
the
like we
water-
did with the, most other time.
Right.
My understanding is that the Water Management District is going to try and help with these future phases.
There'd be riots if we told people we had to, not only do they have to hook the sewer, and they got to pay $5,000, that wouldn't fly.
I don't wanna change that. I'm not all about that, but
You were prohibited from waiving them because of the USDA grant that you have doing this second train, building it, because you have made it a, part of the agreement of getting that money was you can't waive any fees whatsoever.
then how are we doing it?
It's coming out of our pocket,
We're paying it for our general fund, basically.
our sewer fund,
Or sewer operating revenue.
one of the two.
And then the Treasury saying
Just like
that
we waive a building permit fee, we don't actually waive it.
Right.
We still got to pay it.
it's not money that we get in
Yeah.
our enterprise fund for maintenance, repairs, debt service, and paying back the loan. Is that correct, Greg?
Mostly to pay back the loan.
Yeah, and that's a no-no, and so that's why Treasury is saying the federal law prohibits you from using any federal dollars on a grant to pay back a loan or a bond, not just this money, but all of it.
So back, I think to what maybe Chuck was asking, is the feasibility study gonna get done? We need it done sooner than later, sounds like.
Yes.
And
So that
it
we
is-
can get to work on Station
Yes,
76.
and it is everything's in fast track. I mean, the feasibility study,
How long does it take, who's doing that? Is it Rebel Ridge?
No, we have to put that out, because it's over the threshold, we had to put it out for bid, and that it closes, I think, in a week or so, and they'll be evaluated very quickly, and it should be on a board agenda. It will be on a board agenda next month to
But there's-
approve a
I mean, that kind of
contract.
work they ought to have on a shelf, hadn't they, Randy, where they can just pull that data and, that's not hard
lot,
data.
It's not rocket science.
If you read,
Right.
a lot
Should be
of,
something they can do in less than a year. I mean, you said a year for the feasibility
well,
study.
you know, and I don't like to
Months.
oversell and underdeliver, so I kind of undersell and hopefully I
It
overdeliver.
could take about a week.
That's what I'm thinking.
But if you, no, because you have to, I can send you each a copy of what we have to do per DEP.
No, that's okay.
That's okay. I'm-
And so it's going to take a little bit of time because you have to have a lot of GIS files that we don't have, so they have to create them. And mapping and,
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just thinking that all that's done, it's like when I call Randy Merritt, I wanted the
well, what
engineer
we,
drawing, he's got them on a shelf and
well,
he just pulls one
Run them out,
out.
send you a bill, right?
Yeah.
well, let me tell you, this is what we put in there, is that they would use all existing documents to the extent possible, that they would not reinvent the wheel if there was
Okay.
existing documentation.
That station was supposed to have been upsized a little bit anyway.
Which, 76?
So once we get the feasibility study, then we can go back to Northwest Florida Water Management District and
And hopefully that
we
will.
get the money.
Okay, so, in the meantime, they're still giving us money, that's the good news, they've given us,
Right.
so we're still, the money hasn't dried up. But then this feasibility study will be what everybody uses as their plan for moving forward, and
Okay.
I guess
So-
they do what they have to do.
I'm going back to something Greg said. Greg, you said that the funding for this, Wakulla Gardens, the sewer hookups, we're paying that? Isn't that coming out of the grant?
The connection
come out.
fee, the
The
property.
DEP grant, not the federal grant.
It was not a part of the original grant.
We're just sucking it up. Yeah, a lot of money, but what can you
But
do?
we're getting free sewer in the ground and we're taking septic tanks offline, so.
Mm-hmm.
But according to a meeting that we had with the Water Management District, is that, in fact, I reviewed the agreement and I noticed that it wasn't in there, and so I alerted David and they were gonna call and make sure that it was included, and I didn't follow up, so anyway, so that's where we are on the sewer connection fees.
They're not gonna be paid by any
And we've,
grant or whatever.
also
What's the quote,
applied,
Mike?
We've also applied for what they call a 319 non-point pollution grant from DEP. It's also federal dollars, and Dewberry Preble Rish and I have worked together on it. We've applied for it twice for the connection fees, and actually the connection from the right-of-way, the county right-of-way, all the way up to the home. And so far, they have turned us down twice. They will not tell us why. They've just not funded it.
Typically, connection fee is to pay back the cost of the plant and the transmission lines. The monthly bill goes to pay the operating. So it is, that's when they won't pay it, because it actually is paying back a loan. But unfortunately, they're taking up capacity, and then we have no other way to pay back the loan.
And it is like, we're not the only county dealing with that. That is something every county's facing. I mean, Leon County's had to do the same thing because their ordinance. I mean, so I guess it's part of doing business and making some of those improvements.
Either that or just don't do it.
So, anyway, here we are at Lift Station 76. Let's come back around to Lift Station 76, guys.
It's Moore's fault.
Right.
But
And
blame him.
so anyway, on the next slide this is the project cost, which Dewberry Preble Rish provided to me. And the $26,000 for staff, that would be for my time to develop the application, work with the Treasury, do all the agenda items, you know, get the award in, and then it would be for Natalie and Tracy or myself to do, like, we have to go in and do all the reports quarterly and process invoices and all the procurement. And then we look at about $3,100 for supplies, and that'll help pay for copier paper and folders and storage boxes and things like that. Engineering services are about 10% of the estimated construction costs, so we're looking around $2.6 million.
Sure is a lot of money for a lift station.
Well, and I asked that question because the retrofit was less than that, and I asked, why is a retrofit of a lift station more than the retrofit of a wastewater treatment plant? And I was told that it is.
Remember, Mike, this is a repump station. This isn't even the main lift station pumping Wakulla Gardens. This is a repump station.
How much is a new lift station? Less than that.
I mean, if you're talking about something in a subdivision, $200,000.
Well, are we questioning the?
I'd like to see what the scope is. I'd like to know what the scope of this.
I can get that for you.
Yeah.
Again, it's a repump. I mean, if they're shifting all of Crawfordville's sewer out of Hudson Park to this, hey, I could understand that. And laying a new force main along Martin Luther King and getting a lot of the load off of that, I understand that 100%. But if it's
What
just
I'll
a
do is,
repump.
I'll get with Trevor, because Dewberry Preble Rish is, you know, and I'm not an engineer, and I don't try and get into those issues, but I did ask why would this be more, and then a retrofit of a lift station. And but I will get with Trevor, because
Hopefully it's not land purchases, right, Chuck?
Well, this is, you know, we built this lift station cheaper than that originally. And so it just doesn't make any sense as being that.
It was originally sized for Shell Point. I don't know if it was upsized, because Wakulla Gardens is a lot of houses.
Yeah.
But again, it's a repump station. If it was there at Wakulla Gardens where everybody was flowing into it, and you had to pump out 5,000 houses, that's a different story.
but there's already a lift. There was a new one built right at Magnolia Garden.
Yeah, but it
at
didn't cost
Wakulla
nowhere
Gardens.
near that much.
So what I'll do is I will get with Trevor, and I'll get an explanation and send it to all of you to find out more about the
Scope.
details of the scope.
I know David had some big scheme about trying to reroute sewer away from Hudson Park, which was a great idea. Because right now, everything from North Bloxham over to Wakulla Springs goes right there, that park.
I thought they were going to take some things down off of that and down to this one instead of bringing
If
it.
that's the plan, that's might be why it costs so much.
But that's going to, is this adding in the pipes for that? Or?
I don't know. That's why I say I want to see the scope. If it's adding in the pipes, then I can understand it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But Trevor is the one, and I should have invited Trevor here today. I didn't know, but here we are, and I'll get the answer from Trevor, because he'll be able to send me an email, and I'm sure you'll be satisfied with his answer.
You told him the scope for him to give you an estimate, obviously.
So anyway, that's where we are today. Okay, so now this is the, if we look at, because I know money's always the big one, and so if we look at, you know, the 13.7 is over the 15 years. So if you look at our balance today, we've got 1.7, and that is when you take out less the 45,000 for the planning grant, and then the 1.8 million estimated for Otter Creek. Then we get another deposit in October. So we'll have about 2.5 million for the lift station 76 retrofit.
Was the total cost you just showed us on the previous slide?
2.6.
They just made their estimate match the amount of money available, right, Patty?
So that's
Oh,
where,
So,
Amazing.
now we're talking, where are we getting the money for the train refit or rework of
retrofit,
train
that was
one?
project one in the initial MyApp, and that is the 1.8 million. Right up there.
That came out of our Restore Act direct allocation.
Yes, sir.
So 1.8 million has come out of there, so that leaves you 1.8 left, and you've got
And then-
2.5 with the new deposit.
Yeah, and that would be estimated after the October deposit.
Okay. I hate to keep asking this stupid question, but where does the money from Northwest Florida Water Management District figure into these numbers?
That is actually the septic to sewer, and we're not commingling those funds with these funds,
Okay.
because if we do, then those funds become federal. So to the extent possible, we're keeping them separated, but we talk about it in the scope of the project, which justifies the need for these
I understand.
projects.
And if they become federal, by commingling them, then you're subject to a whole different reporting and auditing procedure, right?
Yes, and that makes all the procurement for Wakulla and Magnolia Gardens, and
I
then.
understand that.
No local preference, no, you know, all
Oh,
this
and,
other.
and then, well, you can't do it with state funds anyway, but then what happens is they own a portion of it into perpetuity. And so, and then you have to get a lot of extra documents pulled together.
Okay, I understand.
It also makes construction more because of all the
Federal
federal
requirements.
guidelines.
Gotta check for Indian mounds.
And then you look at NEPA and every, you know. Well, I'm not gonna say anything else. I think I'm gonna quit now.
That it?
Yeah, you done?
So that one, so if I understand correctly, you would all like clarification on the lift station 76 scope and the amount, what is that for? And once you have that, then I can bring an item back, the amended MyApp back for your approval in about maybe end of April, and then I can do the 45-day. So if we need, you know, further discussion, or I know you probably all want to discuss it with David, and
Don't put everything off because of,
I'm moving.
Also, I think we also like to see the time frame on the feasibility study and how soon can we get it?
Okay.
I think that's, you know,
I'll-
we want to see that this year, not a year and a half from now.
Well, you know, I'll do the best I can.
I said that we already have to do a capacity analysis report anyway.
I
to reach
had-
a certain capacity.
Okay, when I had to write the scope based on the DEP guidelines, and so I just have like a one-pager, and I'll send it to you that shows everything that DEP is requiring, and then I'll highlight the things that David added to it.
And Randy was talking about spray field. I thought we were sending a lot of the water to the golf course to take it off the system.
That was my
When is that gonna
understanding, and I'll get clarification, because I thought we had gotten a grant from the Water Management District, what, about 2009, to
Those
move,
pipes have been in
Oh,
there
yeah.
for a long
A long
time.
time, back the late 90s.
I don't know
early
how much
2000s.
they're permitted for, though. Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
maybe $500,000 a day.
Well, we're not sending any, so it's not,
Can't take all the water that we're gonna create, from my understanding.
Just imagine, Chuck, that it rains for 2 solid months like it did. They can just say, we don't want it here if you're effluent. Then we're stuck. So we gotta have spray field or real basin, something like
I
that.
realize you gotta have a spray field. I'm just questioning why we haven't sent the water there yet.
I don't know if it's going there right now or not.
Because we're not advanced water treating it, I don't
Okay,
think.
that'd be why.
And that's not finished, I thought train 2 is in operation.
but we haven't taken anything off of train 1 and
It's
put it on.
operational.
So they're mixing the effluents now, apparently.
So we need some more land for spray field.
Yes, preferably out of the springs protection zone, which we all know leads to.
Yeah, because the Water Management District has already turned
100
their-
acres, what we need?
Water Management
Get
District.
500 acres, I'd say.
Yeah, when we met with the Water Management District and we asked them about possibly selling the treated wastewater back to residents, possibly for
Mm, we don't
spraying
wanna
their
do that.
lawns, and they did exactly that. They went, oh, no, we're not gonna take it out and then put it back in.
I'll tell you why, it takes one septic hauler to dump a load of caustic soda on your wastewater plant, it kills the whole thing.
We went through that with crab plants.
Yep.
We don't wanna do that again.
Don't wanna risk that on somebody's personal house.
So,
It takes one what?
They used to have the crab plants, they put caustic soda in there that used to cook crabs,
Mhm.
and it would kill the entire wastewater plant.
Oh.
So it didn't do any treatment, basically, what's coming out was just almost as bad as what was going in
What's
it.
going in?
But no, we need several hundred acres of upland property, preferably out of both the basins, you know.
Okay, so we have 2 issues that I'm walking away with, or 3. Scope for this project with Station 76, why is it that high? What exactly are we doing? Feasibility study, expedite it, I'm gonna send you what's in the scope, and then I'm sure we can expedite it. We just, sometimes, like I say, I like to make sure that with an agreement that I don't run short of time, and then I have to go through all the work to get it amended, which is just like creating a new agreement. And I have to come and bring it back and all that. And then the other thing is, where are we on the spray field?
David's working on that, I know that. But you don't need to report.
I can,
He's well aware of it.
That it?
all right.
Awesome.
Any questions from the public? No
Anybody
public
hear
here.
from the public?
Al, you have a question? All right, anybody want, I guess we're adjourned.
Thank you. Y'all always make it fun. Y'all always make it fun.